Google, Facebook, and other tech companies are employing armies of online artificial intelligences to police the news and police our thoughts. Here it is on CNN.com. A new set of AI techniques to take a constant flow of information as it hits the web, analyze it in real time, and organize it into storylines. It goes on to talk about how it's only going to display news from trusted news sources, but Google never really articulates how they decide what's trustworthy and untrustworthy. Now, really let that sink in. Rather than let us make our own decisions about what's real and what's fake, these tech oligarchs would rather leave it in the care of bots and artificial intelligences. I mean, they're already stealing our jobs, might as well let them control our thoughts, too. Shaking my damn head. Now, let's talk about the fake news for a moment. You ought to know by now, if you're seeing it on a screen, dollars to donuts, it's fake news. I don't think that's any big secret. And everybody hates fake news, from Hillary Clinton to Donald Trump.
Let me just mention briefly one threat in particular that should concern all Americans, Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike, especially those who serve in our Congress. The epidemic of malicious fake news and false propaganda that flooded social media over the past year. It's now clear that so-called fake news can have real-world consequences. This isn't about politics or partisanship. Lives are at risk. Lives of ordinary people just trying to go about their days, to do their jobs, contribute to their communities.
And I want you all to know that we are fighting the fake news. It's fake, phony, fake. A few days ago, I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are. They are the enemy of the people.
Pretty much everybody has something to say about how destructive fake news can be. But that doesn't stop any of them from reading fake news and watching fake news and sharing fake news. And you know all the stuff on Twitter and Facebook and Google. It's not news at all. It's entertainment. Edutainment at best. And any information you learn along the way is purely coincidental. They never tell you the full story because they can't. Even if you're an eyewitness, you're only seeing one side of the story. And as we've seen, the media favors cohesive narrative over comprehensive coverage. Remember how Google is arranging your news into cohesive storylines? It's simple psychology. Humans need a story to understand complicated subjects. Instead of taking the time to accurately convey the truth, which can be confusing, the media takes the easy way. They lock on to the most salacious details and magnify them beyond all reasonable proportion to string together the most dramatic narrative they can cobble up. And they increasingly rely on anonymous sources instead of doing the legwork required to ferret out the truth. Now I'm going to pause here just for a moment and talk about anonymous sources. I know President What's-His-Name has talked about this a lot. He called it fiction on Twitter, but that's not entirely accurate. Without documentation, proof, evidence of some kind, an anonymous source should be considered no more reliable than the journalist. The credibility of the source relies on the credibility of the journalist. And as we've seen, journalists get it wrong all the time. I mean, these edutainers live in a moral void where accountability doesn't exist. Because unlike the world the rest of us live in, if an edutainer gibbons it up, they get to keep their job. Hell, they might even get their own show. Accuracy is not a factor. Watchability is all that matters. Cohesive storylines and ginned up drama to get all those clicks, likes, and retweets. Truth isn't even a factor. Meanwhile, these edutainers are complaining about attacks on their profession, while elites and Washington insiders steal jobs like cashiering and secretarial work from Americans and give those jobs to lifeless machines, and they've been doing it for decades. The media wants the American people to protect them, even though they did nothing to help the millions of Americans who are suddenly out of work replaced by machines. First, they came for the bank tellers, and I did not speak up. Then they came for the grocery store clerks, and I did not speak up. You know the thing. The point is that there's no point in trying to ferret out what is and what is not fake news. It's all fake news. I can hear you talking right now. I can hear you saying, why are you talking about the media, Gene? Why are you talking about the edutainers when we got that cat-grabbing landlord in the White House? And I'll tell you why. I'm going to tell you right now. Because the media is the organ that's meant to hold our lawmakers and leaders accountable. And instead of talking about how we're all going to be replaced by machines in the next 10 years, they're talking about Russia. They're talking about George Papadopoulos. They're talking about the existence. They're talking about doggone opinion polls. The only jobs they talk about saving are their own. We need a media in this country that actually cares about the people they're meant to be informing. Because I'll tell you what, these media folks couldn't care less about working Americans. They live in their air-conditioned coastal enclaves and are fixated on two things, themselves and popular culture. They don't really understand anything beyond that, and they're afraid that if they begin to understand, they will somehow be tainted with the stain of grubby, mundane reality. Don't let them get away with telling you that they're telling you the truth, because they are not. They're telling you whatever it takes to keep their jobs and preserve their platinum lifestyles. We need a media in this country that is willing to risk itself to tell the truth. And sadly, we do not have that.